Welcome to the Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald, coming off the back of a cracking weekend, notably in Melbourne. The city was vibing hard, but I tell you, the F1, biggest Australian event in sporting history, specifically cuz 419,000 people. Apparently a few clowns were racing on that track as well.
It was great to watch too. Melbourne absolutely turned it on the Sunday as well. It looked like it was blue skies, picture perfect. Looked like it was actually a bit hot as well. Yeah, what was the vibe like down there? You had the comedy festival, you had the AFL, you had the Grand Prix. Everything was happening in Melbourne over the weekend.
I'm going to go out and say it was probably one of the best weekends, most enjoyable weekends as a Melburnian that I've ever had. And I've been here for about 8 years now, but it was immaculate. I've said this a few times, so I've got a clear bias, but knowing that we had 419,000 people at the F1 just gives me a lot of joy. The people want to be out and about. Also, of course, you've mentioned it a few times to me, that new Netflix show, Drive to Survive, I think also has really fueled a spark. Fueled. Fueled. Really octaned. It's really...
I think not your best. Hey, I did think too it was a nice sort of book note or ending to the book chapter on COVID as well. A lot of Australians, I think, remember the start of COVID as being when everyone turned up to the starting gates of the Formula One on the Friday of qualifying in March 2020, only to be turned away. The drivers were getting on planes within the hour. It was really sad and crazy scenes. And then 2 years to come full circle and have 420,000 Aussies get through the gates in one weekend. Absolutely turned it on. It was a great race, a great weekend. It just felt like the right bookend to the chapter.
Absolutely, and I hope it doesn't end there, even though our weather's starting to get a little bit cold.
I was going to say, you've got the turtleneck on too. Is that an ode to Clifford, or is it just a little bit frosty down there today?
It's an ode to one of our loyal listeners, Clifford Turtleneck. It is 2 weeks in a row, but it also is a little bit cold. So that's why, Cuzzy. But I got a bit of a bone to pick with you.
I knew this was coming.
Your confidential informant, your CI, is going to have to go into witness protection because...
Tell you what.
Your tip on when the election was going to be, I think you said May the 14th, it was wrong.
Absolutely. So announced on Sunday that it will in fact be on May the 21st, which is my birthday. So it's completely thrown my birthday plans out the window. I've got to find a venue that's going to telecast the election. I can't be going to a venue that's only going to telecast ABC. I need a little bit of a balanced view. I need a bit of Sky, a bit of Channel 7, a bit of ABC, so I can get a balanced count. That's a look behind the scenes on my current plans, trying to salvage my birthday plans and come up with the right kind of mix. But no, it was announced.
Election birthday party.
It was announced on Sunday. So what do we got? Maybe a 40-day lead up, and day one was pretty entertaining.
Oh no. It was entertaining is one word, but it was probably a new segment here. Cringe.
Oh.
Cringe.
www.awkward.com. Put it that way. Soundbite.
Oh my God. And what are we talking about? You're probably wondering. Well, that's Anthony Albanese was interviewed day one of the election campaign. Evidently doesn't know the two most important numbers in the Australian economy today. It was the most cringe thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
On Australian politics. You know, they flagged ScoMo not knowing the price of bread and milk a couple of months ago, which is, up for interpretation because, everyone eats bloody fancy gluten-free alfalfa bread now and drinks, soy fluffa milk. So, that's an irrelevant question in that sense. But Anthony Albanese was asked what the unemployment rate is. He said 5. He floundered around and then he said 5.4%.
Numbnuts of numbnuts.
He actually said, I don't know, 5.4%.
Well, loyal listeners of this podcast would know that it actually sits at 4%.
He
So
was
wrong.
1.4% above.
Yeah, that one I can can't understand, but the cash rate's the one I can't let go because the cash rate's been the same for nearly 2 years. 0.1%, and he didn't even give an answer on that one, which I think it was a massive own goal because his whole policy, his whole messaging so far has been that he's going to be the one to reach out to the everyday Australian and make it more affordable for them. But it didn't look like he was so in touch with the common man.
Couldn't have looked more spastic.
Hey, geez.
Well, historical,
Nick,
Alex. What are you saying?
That's
I don't know if President Alex endorses that, but yeah.
That's potentially our future Prime Minister that you've just had a go at there, Nico.
Oh, mate, that is.
Jesus Christ.
Look, politically, whatever, you can't not know our unemployment. By the way, 5.4% would be above pre-pandemic levels. We were 5.1% pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Like, how can the Labor leader not know that? Labor, unemployment number.
Want to move on. Our people don't want to hear us banging on about this stuff. I do want to hear about the Comedy Fest though, and your favourite takeaway joke, if there was one.
Well, the day I went to Comedy Fest was Sunday, which is also the day the election was called. So sorry, this is going to be an election joke, and it's very inappropriate. So he basically had a bit of a slideshow. His name was Michael Schaefer, funniest guy. I really liked him. He put up on the thing how ScoMo was created. So he had Scott Morrison's name, and he had the SCO and the Mo circled in red. And he goes, that created ScoMo. He goes, and that effectively won ScoMo an election. He goes, now, I've got the strategy of strategies for Anthony Albanese. And then he had it up on the board. He highlighted the AN and then the AL. The crowd absolutely roared with laughter. And then he goes, and that's the joke that you're going to remember when you go to vote. So good. So sorry, that's enough for any election and vote stuff. But God, I found that funny.
Now to the most popular, by far, the most popular segment of this podcast. It's only 3 weeks old, but throw it in.
Stat fact.
The stat man.
Stat fact. Even James did a bit of salsa dancing then. Guys, I've never seen your shoulders move like that.
So what are we going to start with, the fun fact or the stat fact?
I'm going to give you the floor, Cuzzy, with the stat fact. Go on. Stat fact.
Yeah. Okay, so you're still not letting me near the fun fact, but that's okay. I'll cop that.
Well, did you have a fun fact prepared?
I did not. No. I mean, I thought this was the fun fact. It happened to also be a stat fact, but the stat fact that I love this week is Aussies have now squirreled away a record $232 billion in their offset savings account. So that is a savings account that goes against their mortgage.
Love it.
Massive. It's an increase of 15%, which is around $30 billion just in the last 12 months alone. And to put that in perspective, mob called Rate City have done a cool little analysis. Someone with $1 million mortgage who's got $100,000 sitting in a offset account saves themselves $10,000 in interest over a 5-year period. So that would add up. $10,000 is a lot of money over 5 years.
Mate, that's no small feat. I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back as a nation for doing that. Don't you think?
Amen. Love it. And I've got another view, but I thought I'll park that because I want to hear the fun fact. But I want to come back to that because I think it's causing chaos in airports around Australia. But we'll go to that in a moment.
Oh, okay. This fun fact isn't going to go too long, but it is interesting. Pablo Escobar, the world's wealthiest ever in history, by the way, we know about, drug dealer, drug lord. Probably not appropriate for this, but we all know who he is.
Yep.
He offered to pay off his country's debt of $10 billion to avoid extradition. And they said, no. They didn't say, sí. They said, no. And that's the fun fact of the week. I thought it was
He's Colombian, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Do we outro this now, this our new segment, Nico? Stat Fact!
Oh, nice.
No salsa dancing. Yes, so, Cuz,
Yes.
I'll pick up, and then if you wanna take it. But right now, we're entering the Easter period. Hopefully you're listening to this whilst you're in transit in some capacity. By the way, got back on the magazine reading the other week. Picked up one at the airport. So if you are listening to this, maybe check out the magazine. Anyway, currently, right now, Australia's economy, soaring. We've got the highest ever household savings, lowest unemployment and years, and we've got work flexibility. So, of course, what are we seeing? We are pending one of the craziest travel periods we've ever seen this Easter, and it is as high as some of those Christmas traveling periods. And even Alan Joyce has quoted some unbelievable travel numbers for this Easter period.
Yeah, 500,000 people, he thinks, will go on a Jetstar and Qantas flight, just Jetstar and Qantas. 500,000 people from Sunday to Saturday this week.
Insane. So a little travel tidbit. Get to the airport. I'm actually saying this to listen back to myself because I don't do this. Hey, Alex, future Alex, when you go to travel this weekend, get there 2 hours early, buddy. Otherwise, you're not going to make your flight.
I was going to say, are you going to be one of them? Are you travelling or are you staying in Melbourne for the Easter?
Coming up to the Gold Coast for Saturday, staying for the week. So I'll be
heed your own advice.
Hanging around like a bad smell, probably recording with you in your studio next Tuesday. It's just me and 500,000 other people traveling this weekend. No biggie. Unless, cuz you've got $12,000 to spare. You, my friend, can fly private.
No, thanks. $12,000.
No, thanks.
$12,000. That'll take out the next 5 years worth of offset savings in my offset account.
And some, Cuzzy. Oh, it's a bit hot in here. I had to shed a layer. Sorry.
Hey, let's talk about the media. You don't like it when the media jump the gun, do you?
No, don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Damn it. The latest piece of headline material is sellers storm the market ahead of interest rate hikes. And then, of course, as you go into it, they had 5,000 auctions on the weekend just gone, and it was the highest volume of auctions so far this year. Now, yes, last Tuesday, the Reserve Bank of Australia met, and they mentioned for the first time, which has sent the media and economists into another stratosphere, that there is a possibility, in fact, maybe even a high possibility of an interest rate increase before the end of the year, maybe as early as June. So the media have gone nuts.
We're going to deal with that in quick shots this week.
I think that's the go, cuz. We're going to dissect that in quick shots because we are getting hounded with questions all related to interest rates. Yep. Thanks to Channel 9 News. No joke. They really are smashing 4 rate hikes before the end of the year, which is sending people crazy. Anyway, back to these auctions. So there was 5,000 last weekend. Now, the media make out that the RBA have announced they're going to increase interest rates, and therefore all of these people have gone to sell. But let's just hold up a second. I got an issue with what they're saying. Number one, to take a house to auction, I'm going to say you need at least a 4 to 6 week campaign.
Oh, 6. 6 weeks for sure.
Like maybe 4 weeks, an agent who's got no listings because they're all low on listings will make it happen. But they want to give themselves the best possible run-up. So these auctions were planned well in advance of any Reserve Bank of Australia announcement, number one. Number two, do you think that we maybe had the highest volumes because they wanted to cram them all in for before Easter long weekend? Because with 500,000 people traveling Easter long weekend, no agent with a brain would have an auction on Easter long weekend. Cuz your commentary, thoughts.
100% agree. Gripes. You would have probably had to decide to sell your house at the end of January to be able to auction it over the weekend just gone. It was a big weekend of auctions, and in fact, 80% more auctions, so nearly double the auctions that were held in the same weekend last year. So that's a huge increase. Still healthy numbers though. We talk about a balanced market being somewhere between sort of 60 and 65%. Sydney's at about 65% today, so still balanced. Still a decent market to be buying and selling. It is down on 80% last year. Yes. Melbourne's at about 70%, and that's down on 73% last year, so fairly stable when you consider that it's had nearly double the amount of sales or homes go to auction.
Yes.
Adelaide is running at 83%, and it's actually up on 78% last year. Sydney's still running, Brisbane's still running at 70%, which again is down on the 80% last year. But Brisbane and Adelaide had more than double the homes go to auction in the weekend just gone versus this time last year. So those markets are at fever pitch, and Sydney, Melbourne's still pretty strong.
They are. And you know what I just thought of, cuz there's another reason that it's record high auctions is because the weekend after is also Anzac Long weekend. You're not going to host.
You got the double whammy.
The double whammy. So they've all been brought forward. So that highest volume of auctions this year makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see how it compares to last year. But again, we're in a different market. We're out of lockdowns, completely different vibes. We've all got vaccinated. So maybe not even the best comparison. That's the end of my gripe, cuz I've enough bitching and moaning about the media.
Yeah, I am salty.
I am just always just spinach, salt, packet of crisps. Let's talk about the median house prices falling in Sydney. Now, this is it's a bit of a media grab as well, but I think upon reading it, cuz there is a little bit more to it, especially in the upper quartile.
Yeah, I mean, what did we talk about? A week or two ago, we said that the Sydney median house price fell by a grand total of 0.1%.
Oh, my God.
It fell by a few $100. CoreLogic put out some fantastic data during the week to say that if you actually look at the numbers, it's the upper end of the market, so the upper 25% most expensive properties, they fell by 0.6%. If you go to the lower end of the market, so the lower half, those prices were actually up by not much, 0.1%. Melbourne's similar trend, albeit more exaggerated, 0.5% down in the upper quartile. The lower half were actually up by 0.5%. So it's completely offset what's happened at the top end of the market. Brisbane and Adelaide, just to reiterate the trend that Brisbane and Adelaide taking over from Sydney and Melbourne that have had a massive run in the last 3-4 years. Not a single suburb in both of those two cities has gone down in value during March. And more importantly, the upper, middle, lower, every quartile was up in those markets. So I thought it just paints a bit of context that you can talk about the Sydney median house price, but there's so many different suburbs and different markets within that market. So you got to actually take a wider view.
And, looking at or watching season 2 of Lux Listings is sobering as to why they have a median house. Season 2's out.
No.
Mate, it's out.
Oh, no.
Get your little Gavin Rubenstein fix, my friend.
I've let my Amazon subscription expire.
Look, this should be offline, but we'll put it online. I'll lend you mine. Mate, Bulletproof Budgeting Tips 101. Share a subscription. I got you, cuz.
Amen.
I got you. Thank you. But, sorry, what I was going to say is they're selling $16, $18, $20 million homes. It is no wonder that the median is somewhat dragged up to 1.4 million. Now, that is obviously different to the average because it is the middle, but you can see how it is the middle. You've got the sexiest of the sexy. Speaking of the sexiest of the sexy and those that are spending the money on the 20 mils, the private wealth families or the nice wealthy families that have a lot of private money is probably the best way to put that. They've actually, there's been a report done, cuz, where they're looking for 5% returns, probably slightly lower than I would have thought the average private, well, they're not average, but you know what I mean.
The reports came
on average what they look for.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Thank you.
Report has come from Private Wealth Network. Now, that must be some sort of exclusive club because I've never heard of them. I'm not sure what you're going to do to become part of that network.
I was pretty sure the last private wealth report I read, you gave me absolute flack for reading, but it was interesting and you loved it. You loved it.
Yeah, so it'd be families with more than $10 million is I think how they define it, and they are saying the private wealth network are saying that more than half of those families are hoping to get a 5% return on their money in the next 12 months, and it got me thinking. 5%. Oh, I don't think that's very high. What do you think?
I don't think it's high at all. And I would have thought for these private wealthy families, they could afford to lose a little bit more, so they might actually go for those riskier investments with higher returns. But I guess maybe if this is intergenerational wealth, they're a little bit more conservative because it's intergenerational wealth. I don't know. I don't know if I'm categorized in this group. In fact, I know I'm not. So I don't not know. I know I'm not. Sorry about that. Anywho, it is conservative. I would say you and I, as fairly average folk that have a keen interest on investing in pretty much only property at this point, not that we're opposed to anything else. It's just what we know. I would say like 4.5%, 5% is good for us. And I guess we're talking about rental yields as one point, but on the other side, there's your capital growth, which is another return.
No, so I looked at that. They are marking it as not a total return on their assets and the value of their assets, but a total return on their capital. So their equity, their cash, 5%. Yeah.
Okay, that's very low.
It got me thinking though, what do you reckon you would get in a typical year? Or what do you think the average mum and dad investor type might get as a return on their money?
So, okay, let's just break this down. So say they put in $100,000 to buy an investment property and they're getting a 4.5% yield on their $100,000. Is that what you're saying? Their rental yield.
So 100,000, let's say that, they put down a 20% deposit and buy an investment property. What return do you think they would get?
On their equity?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be like 20%.
On what basis?
On their equity. Put in $100,000 and then you rent your house out for $420. Huh?
So if they put down $100,000 as a 20% deposit, that would be, what's 100,000 divided by 20%? They're buying a $500,000 property. So to get a 20% return, they would only have to see that property grow in value by $20,000 to...
Yeah. Or you're getting a rental yield of, say, let's just say conservatively, $400 a week, $20,000 a year gross.
You got to pay interest on the debt.
Yeah, you're right, but it's still that's your cash return. I mean, I guess there's many ways you can cut this up. What would you say? I'm saying 20% gross. What are you saying?
I think it might even be more. I reckon.
Oh, well, now I feel better about myself. Jesus.
Well, if
this is unprepared, as you can tell, people listening.
A $500,000 property, even if it only went up by 50% in 10 years, what's that?
Return on your equity.
$250,000 over 10 years. That's $25,000 a year. So it's 25%, slightly higher than your 20%. And then the rents go up as well. So you're probably going to get a return from the rents. I think you're probably getting closer to 30%. A lot more than the 5%.
Look, it's interesting, and I think you might have to delve a little deeper into that report, Cuzzy. But that was a tough one to dissect. Hopefully, we haven't completely lost the people.
Well, interestingly, roughly 1 in 10 of the private wealth groups are putting their money into property. Just over 1 in 10. Not a lot of
major surprises there.
Maybe that's what they're missing. Who knows?
Whoa!
But a lot of it in listed equities that are overseas based. So maybe it's the global uncertainty. Who knows?
It's like the same as our self-managed super fund stat last week.
Yeah,
overseas managed,
going full circle. Look at us linking to previous podcasts now. Haven't we upgraded and evolved?
It's only taken us 2.5 years, but we are fine. You're going to Hollywood, baby.
I reckon we might wrap it up there. We're going to have a pretty chunky, quick shots this week because we decided to deal with the Reserve Bank and interest rate increases. In that podcast, we have had a bunch of questions framed in similar ways, but different questions that we'll deal with on that episode. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing and recommending and liking our podcast. We'd love to hear from you, but more importantly, we'd love it if you just share us with one of your friends. We know you're doing it, and we really appreciate it. So thank you. Have a great week, guys, and keep an ear out for the quick shots on Friday morning.
Toodaloo! Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, okay, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot. James, show us some of those shoulders you did earlier. Shimmy, shimmy, hey.
Shimmy, shimmy.